everybody.
I'd like to call our meeting to order, and if everyone could please rise and remove hats, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to everyone here tonight. And first order of business, I'll hear a motion to approve agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as published. Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. And we'll move right on to public comment. I would just remind public comment is 3 minutes. And I have only one name on. It's Rebecca Holland.
Hi.
You're up.
Don't start my 3 minutes yet here. I gotta settle in. Okay, hi. I am Rebecca Holland, and I have been here for 47 years. My husband and I have 3 sons, and all are graduates from Northside School, Sandpoint Middle School, and Sandpoint High School. I am currently a co-leader for Reclaim Idaho, which is a citizens volunteer group that is totally unaffiliated with any political parties, but we are representing the work here in District 1. We've been gathering signatures statewide for the Education Initiative to have it on the November ballot. And what this will do is bring money to our, more money to our K-12 public schools, earmarked for lowering class sizes. The bill is written in such a way that it is to help teacher and staff wages, and so that we can retain more, lower classes sizes, but it cannot go to administrative costs. So it's a well-written bill. It also is targeting strongly career tech classes, and we all know how important those are at our secondary schools. I believe this will be a game changer for our schools. The way this is going to work, it's going to be equal distribution across the state for the funds that are gathered. So basically every student in every district by enrollment will be the same amount of money allocated to a district. So it's not a matter of a wealthier district over a not so wealthy district. So I think that's extremely good the way this is written up. This is not a property tax levy, so just to be sure everybody understands that. What this is a state income tax that basically will not affect anyone making less than $250,000 or a couple that makes $500,000. And there's no touching that part, it's just the or more part. So that's where some of the funds come from. Some of our Sandpoint team of volunteers here have been visiting some of the more rural areas of our district, District 1 and District 7, which goes over into Silver Valley. And it's been well received by people that we visit and see. In fact, over there, we had one of the superintendents come out to shake hands with us for coming. We realize that this is going to be a game changer for our school district. We will be collecting signatures outside of the public right-of-way after the meeting, so if you would like to sign, please come on out. If you need more information, you can go to a website that's very well designed, reclaimidaho.org, and I suggest you just hit on the thing to ask questions, and it's very, very clear how it's written, spelled out. In closing, I would like to say, I think many of us recognize that this is a pivotal point for our public schools. And we as citizens will be passing a law protected by our state constitution that will help our Idaho students succeed in this world by giving them more access to strong programs taught by dedicated teachers.
Rebecca, the time's up if you can.
Okay,
bring it
my
to
last sentence. This initiative is democracy in action.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So we have with us tonight a special guest. A warm welcome and congratulations to Dr. Becky Meyer, who we have hired as our incoming superintendent taking the position starting July 1st, when our well-beloved Superintendent Tom Albertson retires. And on behalf of the board, we welcome you. Thank you for coming tonight. I know Tom had a few things he was...
Yeah, I'd just like to, if you don't know, Becky is not new to our district. She's been away for 6 years, gaining valuable experience as a superintendent of Lakeland School District. But previous to that was assistant superintendent in Lake Pend Oreille School District, 10 years as principal at Sandpoint High School. Previous to that was principal at the Alternative High School, and a very vast, deep counseling background. And so I'm very excited to welcome Becky to Lake Pend Oreille School, or back to Lake Pend Oreille School District.
Yep,
So.
we all are. Thank you. Did you have anything you wanted to say since we put you on the spot?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to working. I've already met individually with all the board members. I'm going around to all the schools. I had spring break the week before this district did, so I went to all the schools again and met individually with the board, and I'm going to meet individually with admin, and then start to today I met with Tom and his leadership team and different places throughout the community that I can get to know people and be involved in the community. So I'm going to start integrating and learning as much as I can before I officially start on July 1, but I'll be coming to the board meetings and being here. So thank you very much, and I'm super excited to be here. So
Thank you.
Board.
Welcome again. Yep. So we have a school presentation from Principal Christine Davis. Welcome for Sagal Elementary.
Hi, thank you. That's hard to follow, the
well.
superintendent. I teased earlier in the year, we were, kind of hit up to pick a night that we wanted to, come and present to the board, and I just said, oh, well, I'm brand new, because I've only been here since August, I'll pick April. Little did I realize that, Dr. Meyer was going to be here tonight too, so no pressure or anything. But first of all, I know I've met all of you, but I'm Chris Davis. I'm the very proud principal of Sagal Elementary School. I know I already came to I think one of the very first meetings and said a little bit about myself. So this is all about our wonderful little Sagal tonight. So just a quick little presentation. This is our little mascot here. We're the home of the Hawks. So staff, we have 2 sections of every grade level, K through 6 currently, with the exception of a 4-5 combo, which was brand new to me. This is my 24th year in education, and I've never seen a combo work before, and I thought, nope, not going to happen. Our amazing Tom Sawyer is just flat out getting it done. He's working with our 4th and our 5th graders and making sure that all of their academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs are being met. So I'm pretty impressed by that. And we'll still have that combo for next year with 5th and 6th grade. We also have our specials, our PE, music, technology, and library that are offered throughout the week. I love that art is incorporated in literally every single classroom. We just actually passed a PTA fund request for a brand new machine, a new kiln, and some clay. I don't even know all the terms to these little machines, but it's a pretty big deal around Sagal. Everybody was really happy when it was approved. So we're looking forward to that, and we do work with Kaleidoscope regularly too, so all of our kiddos are participating in that. We have a school counselor who is amazing. He's on site 2.5 days a week, and he comes and does all kinds of activities with our kiddos, and that's near and dear to my heart because I was a counselor for 10 years. I know Dr. Meyer can relate to that too, and so we're really excited to have him with us as much as he's there. We love him full time, 5 days a week, but I'll talk with Dr. Meyer about that later. Special education classrooms, we do have a certified teacher and 5. We just hired our 5th paraprofessional. They're all wonderful ladies. And we have a Title I certified teacher, paraprofessionals who provide lots of intervention support in all of the academic areas, including behavior. And then brand new this year, as of February 7th, in fact, we have an early childhood classroom. So right now we have 13 sweeties that are with us, and throughout the week, Monday through Thursday. They are absolutely adorable. I did have one friend decide he was going to pull the fire alarm on me the other day, so we just really have to kind of watch when they're coming in and out because they do the darndest things. So yeah, that is our Sagal staff. So celebrating high levels of growth, learning, and involvement. I'm being completely transparent when I say we have some room to grow. I think we all do. So I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on data. I did put our most recent iStation data up there because we are really, really proud of the growth from tiers. So you can see that we moved 24 students out of tier 3 in just 6 months. So kudos to our title staff and to our teachers, and of course our kiddos for working as hard as they do. We really, really, really promote reading and literacy in our schools. So I'm excited about that. Wellness, this is a little bit of an older survey because we just completed, as you know, our student engagement window for this school year, but coming into the year, we were already looking at over 70% of our students who were still feeling really emotionally committed to being at school and just really caring about each other and wanting to be a part of our school community. So I think that says a lot given what the times have been. So we're hoping that those numbers are going to be even higher this spring when we get that new data. Attendance, we are maintaining a 90% plus. Some months it's as much as a 95% daily attendance rate. So I think that means that our kiddos really want to be at Sagal. They love coming. They love seeing their teachers and their other staff members. So I'm really excited about that. Enrollment, this is another huge plus for us. We are up about 100 students in the last 1.5 years. So, you know, that trajectory is continuing to climb upward. Luckily, we have space. We do have, if we need to, we'll use our portables outside, and we're doing a little bit of combining of some classrooms, but yeah, to have about 305 kiddos. We actually just enrolled 2 more today, right before I was leaving. So they keep coming, and we keep welcoming them. And I did include those preschoolers because we do have 13 of those at the moment. Pictures, everybody loves pictures. I think most importantly at Sagal, we really focus on just creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. So we really work on building climate and morale. We do activities all the time. My favorite is down there in the bottom right corner. We have Popcorn Fridays. Everybody loves it. We got the good old-fashioned popcorn machine. Our students, our 6th graders, are actually the ones who are completely in charge of it. They had to seek volunteers, so they hit up their parents. So each week we have a schedule of parents that come. And then each of them gets to have an opportunity to assist. Obviously, we're really careful about germs, and so just the parents are in charge of the popcorn, but the kiddos actually do the collecting of the money. It's 50 cents for a bag. Dr. Meyer, I wish you were coming on Friday because we would definitely enjoy giving you the popcorn.
I don't think that price has gone up in like the
No,
last
probably
15
not.
years.
We keep it as is, right?
Oh.
Kids get very, very excited. So does the staff. I mean, we always have extra bags sitting in that staff room, so it's a really fun Friday for us. That's also the time that we do our Sagal Spirit Wear. So we have 2 actually local vendors that we go through. So we have all kinds of fun Sagal Spirit Wear. And speaking of spirit, over on the bottom left, we do enjoy our Spirit Days. Obviously, we celebrated the 100th day of school not too long ago. So our cute little Ashley DeLucci, kindergarten teacher, really got into it with her students. We have, dressed as your favorite book character. We do all kinds of, just fun themed events that most of the time our 6th graders, our leaders of the school, are selecting. So we have a little group that meets with me, and they get to come up with those different spirit events. Top right, we have our store cards. I did actually bring some, so you guys can sample these. I don't know if you've seen these before, but you can each take one. Our store is just our mantra that we have about showing character, acting responsibly, owning our actions, and responding respectfully. And so we get a chance, all of our students can earn a store card by going above and beyond basically the call of duty. And we have 6 pillars of character that are displayed in our hallway, and as they earn their SOAR cards, they come up to the office. And if you know our office staff at all, Miss Lindley and Miss Karen practically do like back handsprings and cartwheels. We make a really big deal about it because not everybody knows a SOAR card. I hope they all do, but the reality is sometimes we struggle. And so our kids get to display those in the hallways. Those are a couple of our pillars up there. And yeah, it's been really neat to promote that. We're hoping to take it to another level next year as well, and make sure that, like I said, everybody has a chance to earn one. And then on the top left, we just finished participating in Read Across America. So really neat opportunity. Our Title I teacher, Sherry Mitchell, worked with some local bookstores and has some title funds, and every single one of our Sagal students got to pick a book And so they were really excited. They went in and did like book shopping with her. And we also did some spirit days. We guessed all of the Dr. Seuss characters. That was pretty fun. We actually did have one friend who guessed all of them correctly. So we do enjoy just having fun at Sable, and I think that makes a big difference, because when our students want to be there and they feel like they belong, then obviously that's when we're going to start to see those academics rise as well. All right, systems of support, so ways that we make sure that our kiddos are successful. You've probably heard this quite a handful of times now, but we do participate in the professional learning communities, or PLC for short. Our teams have been really busy unpacking all of our essential standards, grades K through 6. So we create, score, and calibrate common formative assessments together, especially on those Wednesday afternoons, but we're also working during the week when we have our common plan time together. We conduct data dives pretty regularly. We just got done doing one right before spring break, in fact, just to evaluate how things are going, where do we need to tweak some of our processes. We are identifying interventions for those students who haven't quite met the standards, and we're also providing extensions for those who have, so just to continue on with that learning and make sure nobody's ever stagnant. So different ways that we make sure we're identifying proper interventions. We do have a multidisciplinary team. We meet monthly. That's our speech teacher, our title teacher, administration, and special education. And then we also have a multi-tiered system of support that meets regularly every 6 to 8 weeks with every grade level. So we feel like we really stay on top of those kiddos who just need that extra boost, or like I said, who need that extension. As I mentioned before, we have counseling lessons and groups and one-on-one support when Mr. Fox is with us. Yes, he is the fantastic Mr. Fox. We do enjoy that. And then we have PBIS and universal behavior supports in place. One of my big goals is every one of our classrooms is, if it doesn't already have it, it will be soon, having a little calming corner, so that students who might just need to take a little break, have a moment with a fidget, or do some wall push-ups or something to help with sensory needs, have the opportunity to do that. And sometimes it's just as easy to do it right in the classroom as opposed to removing them. So we're really excited about that. And then this is my big baby, our Champion Initiative. All students really need to have at least one trusted adult in our building. So, you know, when they're really in need of maybe that extra hug, or they're struggling, maybe made a weak choice, I can call on that champion to help me when I'm working with the kiddo with, perhaps restorative dialogue or even consequences when needed. So that's been really fun too. Community involvement, we are, and I am still learning because I've only been here since August, but we sure have a lot of amazing places at our fingertips that can help support our kiddos with their learning. Obviously, we have some grade levels that are enjoying the snow, so they've done some cross-country skiing at Pine Street Woods. They've been on the snow school trip. We've had Birds of Prey with the Northwest come. Every one of our classes received a book, Beauty and the Beak, and we actually even had some birds come in. I have a huge phobia of birds, but I did sit there and all of it. I mean, if you were there, you would have laughed because I'm sure I looked very stressed and intense, but really had a great presentation for all of our students. One of our most exciting things that we do, and I know all of our first graders have the opportunity in our district, we work with the Sandpoint Police Department and PACE. We do a program called Learning with Lucky. I have read almost with every single one of our first graders, and when they come and meet with me, they bring their puppy along, the puppy gets to sit, and they earn these wonderful little badges and blankies, and they have opportunities to take their puppy home when they're earning, different literacy goals. So that's been pretty cute. And then probably the coolest thing that I've seen in a long time is our fifth graders are working with the Kokanee Hatchery. And so they're learning a lot about the salmon species in the area, and just, the life cycle and different things that humans can do to really help and not hinder the, the growth and the development of these salmon. And so our fifth graders are solely responsible for that. And pretty soon we'll get to release almost 200 of those little bitty salmon in there. So that'll be pretty cool to witness. So like I said, just a lot of community involvement, and always looking for opportunities to bring in more of the community to Sable. That is it. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions for Chris? It's very, it's a great school. That's where my kids went. Yeah. So it's fun to see the programs that are there now, and what you're doing so much work with the students. So I'm encouraged by how far you've come since just fall. So.
Yeah, it's a neat place.
Yeah. it's a
I'd
great
just like to
community.
give Chris accolades, bring brand new to our community from Missouri and hit the ground running, and she just, the culture at the school is wonderful, so thank you.
Well, that's great.
Happy to be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a construction combine presentation from Transition Counselor Geraldine Meyer and College and Career Mentor Angie Dahl.
Dale.
Dale.
There we go.
I look like it. Oh, it's
We
really-
wanted to make sure you guys didn't miss us. Okay,
I-
we're here. Anyway, we're really appreciate to be here. Trustee Sherman and Trustee Peters actually participated in the event, but they were there for both days, so now they get to see the whole thing completed. Angie and I flipped a coin, who got to speak and who did the PowerPoint and video. Angie won for the video and for the PowerPoint, so most of you know I don't have any technology ability anyway, so. We just found out about this event probably 5 years ago at a School Counselor Association meeting, and it happens a lot in the southern part of the state of Idaho. Idaho State University is the original creator of this program, started it, and they have moved it now into 17 different states. So we were able to finally, it's happened once in Coeur d'Alene, and then we are the second time it's happened in North Idaho. So I think the video shows it best. Maybe you can just dim these lights up here, you think behind you.
That's you, Lonnie.
The hands of a working man built this town. Hewed this timber and plowed this ground. Raised those cattle in the sun and snow. Dammed that river and dug that coal. It's a debt we owe to the hands of a working man. Now my granddad had 'em, my daddy does too. Back home there ain't much else to do. Good food on the table and you fill up the tank. Hey, what you owe to the boys at the bank. Live another day thanks to the hands of a working man. Working hard from the sun up to the sundown. They can build it tall, they can carry it on down. They got the know-how, if you got the money. It's hard as a hammer in this big fight. They'd rather roll a pretty girl tied tonight to the rough and dirty, strong and sturdy hands of a working man. Now the hands of a working man look kind of funny. Sticking out a white shirt sleeves on Sunday. They're more at home pulling a rod and a reel. 9-pound hammer or a steering wheel. There's leather and steel in the hands of a working man. Working hard from the sun up to the sundown. They can build it tall, they can tear it on down. They got the know-how, if you got the money. It's hard as a hammer if you do fight, but they'd rather roll a pretty girl tied tonight than a rough and dirty, strong and sturdy hands of a working man. Nothing hard, scuffed and scarred from the front lines of those great dogs. We have what we have. They are the way they are, working hard from the sun up to the sundown. They can build it.
That was great.
So that gives you, oh, you can just keep it over and over. So it looks like a simple process, right? The goal is that students over 2 days went to stations to learn a little bit about just different things in the construction trade. And then on the final day, they actually build a garden shed, and then the garden shed is given away to a local veteran. So that's what happened for the process. But I think what's most important that we wanted to share is that it took so many people. to make this event happen. And there is a group, the residential carpentry group, many years ago from Sandpoint High School, from our district. They actually would build a house and then sell the house. They came back in full force and really stepped up to the plate and helped us every single day and managed it. Chuck Lohman, who I would like to really say thank you to, his wife sort of voluntold. He stepped up and was our contractor, and because as much as Angie and I know a lot about things, probably construction is not in our biggest wheelhouse. So he really stepped up to manage really handling that. And then we had some people in the community who just really were there day after day. And the kind of neat thing about this, the things is that at one of our meetings we were talking about this and they're like, I don't think this can be done in 2 days with students. This doesn't seem realistic. And so we got the great idea that we should practice and build one on a weekend. Saturday, we didn't even have the roof on, and Angie and I were pretty nervous. And that was with 10 professionals. Like, oh boy, we got a problem here. What are we gonna do? But came together the next Thursday, one morning, and boom, they had it done. And so it was just something, that we kind of went. So we actually ended up completing 5 sheds. This shed was one that sort of the adults practiced on to kind of work the kinks out. But so those are just some of the people who really helped. We'll show you some slides of some other people. The cool thing is, students were so fired up about it. The feedback was, they were just like, this was awesome. And, some of the kids were like, well, I've done construction, but I learned about drywall, I learned about roofing, or some things that they learned about. My favorite part was, we had students there the second day at 7:15. They beat us there. They were coming with the coffee and the snacks, and they were like, can we help you alone? And I'm like, you never get to school on time. So students were just excited about it. And a neat kind of extra thing that came out of it is we actually had some students get some job interviews. So have the potential for some employment. So that was kind of from the student side and from feedback. And then from the community, there was just this overarching, how can we support you? This is the coolest thing ever. It is so needed in our community with, the trades, this is the neatest idea, what a great way to honor veterans. It was just the feedback from just different parts of the community. It was really funny. One of a PACE member was actually saying her husband was at a poker party with a group of guys and was like, so tell me about that construction combine that PACE supported. So it's just this buzz out in the community that people were just so excited and so willing to help and wanted to express that. It cost a lot. I think that's one of the things. We were able to secure a Panhandle Alliance for Education of $8,500. Home Depot came through with a $10,000 grant. Ponderay Rotary did $1,000, and the Kiwanis did $1,000. So it was a very expensive program. The total expenses for the actual sheds was we came right in, little tiny buffer, $20,500. In-kind donations, it was things that, we got out there, the fairgrounds gave us a great, terrific deal, but they moved us to a barn, and it was decided that we needed some porta potties, and so I call up Ace, I'm like, hi, we're on the budget, oh, we'll just donate them. Ace just had them there within 2 hours and donated the porta potties. It was just that kind of stuff just happened. Once this got rolling, it was just in-kind donations just, came, ISU sent 2 of their people up, National Guard brought this tool trailer up, Dover Bay gave the ISU people a place to stay. It was just nonstop people helping. There were over 30 volunteers. We just calculated roughly about 568 hours just of volunteer time. Some of our contractors, they sent their crews over and actually, were there to work. We had 41 students that participated in the program. They were from Clark Fork, LPO, and Sandpoint High School. So it was really, we targeted 11th and 12th graders, and so that was really our focus. But it was something that they were excited about it. We fed them well. They all got PPE. They all got a hard hat, their own bucket, safety glasses, ear protection. It was so cute seeing all of them with the tape measure on their belt. And they had hammers, and it was awesome. It was just this really neat program. Our key takeaways were just our community was so, we're just grateful to the support we got from our community, because it just couldn't have happened everywhere we went. It was sort of like Andy and I were talking about, it's like once the ball kind of got to the top of the hill and it started down, there was no stopping it. It took a little while to push it up the hill, but once it got going down, we had great support. Our community, and we learned that our community and our students, they're ready. They want more. They were excited about learning the real life skills, the trades, in a variety of things. You know, our drywallers came one day and they would actually let kids bash a hole with a hammer in the drywall and then taught them how to fix it. You know, the plumber was from Bonner General Health and he like helped them, you know, build all these things. You know, we really learned that there's a strong need and a strong desire both from our students and in our community. And so that was something that we just really wanted to share, and a great appreciation for it. And the other thing that I think Angie and I really learned is that we want to be a part of it, but it's something that we really can't spearhead on our own, and that it's going to take, you know, somehow a community effort or something, because it was just, it sort of took us out from a lot of the other things that we do to serve our students. But so that was, you know, I think it's valuable to learn that, and it's an expensive program. And I think Matt's here, you know, the price of lumber. I mean, Home Depot, just between the quote they gave us, you know, it had gone up almost $2,000 when we started to just like doing it. So it was just that. So, anything if I forgot? Good. Questions?
We heard great things.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Feedback? People there?
So much fun.
The kids loved it. They really did.
Was. And the veterans are super excited. We are sort of laughing that it's the project that'll never die, because the National Guard was supposed to deliver the sheds, but their truck got deployed. So we have these sheds outside the fairgrounds. We're like, oh, well, luckily load limits are on. We'll get them to the veterans somehow. So we didn't get that big old flatbed and let it, you know. We're looking for that.
Did they make more than one shed?
Yeah, we make 5.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say thank you for all your efforts, because it was
This was
great. And I would just like to add to the board that we do offer intro to trades classes now at Sandpoint High School, and also there are something not called intro to trades, but at Clark Fork High School there's also dealing in wood. So those students do get a little dabbling. The idea of this was to take it to the next level. And this is kind of a springboard for us to think about, okay, how do we implement the next level? So instead of just a semester course in the intro to trades that dovetails in with our manufacturing and our welding programs, how do we bring this into the fold? And we're working on that. But I appreciate all your efforts, because usually when you think of school counselors, that's not always in your realm, but I do appreciate that you're always thinking outside the box, and there's no challenge that you ever back down from.
Yeah, Angie was excited. She's like, "Oh, you are neat. What did you get us into?" You know, and there is money from the state of Idaho for an opportunity that will pay $500, and we were able to share that with a lot of our students. That they will pay $500 for electrician, plumbers, HVAC. They will help with some of that $500 per semester if you're a junior or senior. You know, so we were able to tell students it was a great learning. So it was a great opportunity, and big kudos to the board. Alex Gray from the CT department, because he really supported us with the residential department. But thank you guys for letting us have like power saws and tools, because I was pretty nervous, but you guys, we did it, and nobody got hurt. So, and we had a school nurse on site too. So that was nice. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And
we have a few extra shirts if anybody needs them. Just a couple. These we owe them. We have a couple extra.
thank you. We have a presentation now from our Child Nutrition Director, Bobby Coleman, on the summer meals program. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
I am not very good. So, kind of to give you a little bit of history for those that haven't been with us as long as to how we got to where we are today. So the last 2 years we've been operating the child nutrition programs under federal COVID-19 waivers that we've received. So we're not operating our regular programs. These waivers provided universal free meals to all students, regardless of household size or income. All these federal waivers are set to expire at the end of this June, and at this time they've not been renewed yet. There still is legislation and bills going on where they're trying to seek extensions and things like that, but at this time they're not being renewed. These waivers provided us universal free meals for the breakfast and lunch programs. It allowed parent, guardian, and sibling pickups of meals. So if a student couldn't come to school or we were closed for any reason, then parents could still come get a nutritious meal for their children. It allowed meal service time flexibility for breakfast and lunch. This was important because it allowed us, we normally have to serve at specific times. It allowed breakfast and lunch to be served at one time. If a parent came and picked some, or a guardian or sibling came and picked up a meal, we were able to provide the whole day's meal at one time instead of them having to come multiple times. It also provided a higher reimbursement rate for each meal that was served, approximately $1 per meal more than what we're used to receiving. It operated universal free in all of our locations. Usually it's a high poverty, 50% or greater that you have to, and it allowed us to do that at every single one of our school sites. The additional revenue generated by operating under these emergency federal meal waivers has provided us with an exceptional opportunity that we have not had in years past. Our ending fund balance of last school year 2021 for the Child Nutrition Federal Program was about $656,000 to the positive. And it must be invested back into the Child Nutrition Program. This has afforded us the opportunity for our first ever major construction project at the Child Nutrition Warehouse. Current warehouse freezer and refrigerator space is very limited. It's outdated for current health and safety standards, and it's not sufficient to manage our inventory volumes, which service all school kitchens in our district. In February of this school year, our facilities director, Matt Deal, requested approval from the school board to bid Child Nutrition Warehouse campus improvements using these federal child nutrition surplus dollars. The formal bidding process has taken place, and our facilities director will review those bids with you this evening. So the Summer Meals Program is a federal grant, and it's managed by the State Department of Education Child Nutrition Programs. The grant operates independently from all other meal programs during the regular school year, and the grant can be applied for annually by school districts and other nonprofit organizations. And it serves meals to children ages 1 through 18 years old when school is not in session in high poverty areas. So in order to qualify, a site has to be greater than 50%. Lake Conroe School District has provided summer meal programs for as many years as I can remember, and this is my 27th year with the district, and it's been going on for the entire time that I've been here. A participating site or location, again, must be deemed greater than 50% low income eligibility in order to operate the grant. So again, Matt's going to present what the bids came in at for the warehouse reconstruction, and if those are approved by the school board, as we prepare to move forward with the construction project for the Child Nutrition Warehouse, the necessary work will take the full summer to complete. During construction, we'll not have access to our freezers, refrigerators, or dry storage at our warehouse. We won't have space for distributors to come and offload, nor will we have space for inventory to be held safely at, which will make it impossible for us to offer the summer meals program. Taking a 1-year pause from operating the summer meals program has been a difficult decision. Our goal is to provide nutritious meals even during gap seasons of summer at a time when our schools aren't in session to our children in our community. It's not a decision that we've taken lightly. Providing children in our community to access to nutritional meals, but it's necessary for these facility improvements to transpire. I want to ensure the school board and the community that it is our intention to reapply for the grant and resume summer meals following the summer of 2023. This would be just a 1 year or 1 summer in order to make these facility improvements.
I will just ask as a point of clarification, the way the summer meals was running during COVID had, it didn't have the same sort of restrictions that it would have going forward.
Correct. The way
So
that-
we were doing it at other locations even that we wouldn't be able to going forward,
Correct.
if I understand.
Correct. The last 2 years, we've been able to operate at multiple locations. We operated for several years at Kootenai Elementary. Kootenai Elementary hasn't been above 50%
Yeah.
low-income eligibility in many years. With the grant, once you qualify at 50% or greater at any given year, you're grandfathered in for 5 years so that you don't lose that eligibility status up to that time. Unfortunately, this is Kootenai's 5th year. So at
Yeah.
this time, they no longer qualify to
Yeah.
receive the summer meals program. We will, depending on what happens with legislation, how we move forward in the new school year, and if we start collecting low-income applications again in July for the new school year, I don't know because it's been 2 years since we collected them, what that eligibility will be like in the future. But
Okay.
at this time, we only have 1 school site that's technically qualified for summer meals, and that's Farman.
So
Elementary.
when we talk about taking a pause on the summer meals, it's taking a pause of distributing meals only at that one location.
That one location, and historically, we've provided summer meals to Lake Pend Oreille Alternative High School summer school program at Sandpoint High School, and we've been able to do that because it's a high school that is fed in by an elementary school that qualifies, Farman Elementary, so there's a few
There's a few extras. Okay.
qualification areas that
Sure.
we've also provided meals very successfully previous to COVID at Sandpoint City Beach. And the way that we've been able to do that is it's not only by low income application forms that we receive at our school sites, but it can be 50% or greater low income by census data. And the City Beach qualifies as low income under census data.
So that applied during COVID, but
So we
does.
have not operated because of safety reasons
Yeah.
and personal contact at City Beach in 2 years.
Okay, okay. Well, I know this isn't an action item, this is an information item for us, so we understand the discussion behind in case we have questions from constituents about some of the program. Yeah, that's what, this is just about taking a pause this year. So I appreciate you coming and giving us the background on it and how the decision was reached. Thank you. And thank you for your good work in a completely confusing child nutrition program. It seems like it's constantly changing.
We have an excellent team of
Yeah.
people, so I'm
Thank
really
you.
grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are going to move on to fiscal information, finance, and with our fearless CFO, Lisa Halls. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. We are going to take a pause as the laptop is over here and I get myself set up.
Okay.
Please.
Wall push-ups, everyone. Next time. Pass
Can we have
these
cookies
over.
instead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass them over.
You want these ones?
Isn't this This is our expense. Yeah. And just as a reminder to the board, this is our second presentation from our CFO on budget planning, and then we'll get the final at either our May or our June meeting. So this is phase 2 expense program.
call you up to get it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Then Gerald.
Oh, it was?
You can pass those around. I'm not sure I have enough copies. I know I have enough. This
Yeah, I was.
Thought it was two.
Half of you. Yes, thank you.
And if there's not enough, I don't.
There's not enough. Let's find out.
Looks like there is. I think we're good. There's one more there. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we're ready for you.
Okay, great.
You know,
So, good evening. This evening, we are conducting what I would call our second budget workshop for the fiscal year that commences July 1st, 2022, known as fiscal year 2023. To remind the board and the audience, last month, we reviewed in the first workshop not only revenue projections for fiscal year 23, but also a little more long-term in terms of the long-term financial position of the district. And tonight, we are going to focus on the expense side of the administration's recommendations for fiscal year 23. And in terms of presentation, the recommendations are comparing this current fiscal year to the projected fiscal year 2023. But first I want to review just the closing weeks of the Idaho legislative session since we last met. And there are three salient bills that either were approved or in fact vetoed. The first is something that affects fiscal year 22. It's Senate Bill 1404, and it is funded through the governor's federal COVID relief package, the third COVID relief package, ARPA, and it extends bonuses to all public school district employees that are reported to us through the State Department of Education. So to be clear, it's not all of our FTEs, it's what we are being funded on. So there's a fair amount of attention in the press that it's a $1,000 bonus, but when we pay it out to all benefited employees that were active as of April 1st in our district, that will work out to be $845, and that will be included in this April's paycheck. Okay. The next piece of legislation required JFAC reopening the appropriation for fiscal year 23. I spent a fair amount of time last time telling you that there was some flexibility language that had been eliminated through the unit discretionary money that affected health insurance. And it was very important to us. It would have restricted about $840,000. JFAC reopened the budget, put the original language that's been in place for several fiscal years, and so the projection I presented in terms of revenue and flexibility with that revenue still stands. And then, more quizzically, the governor vetoed a bill that was sponsored by the House Education Chair, Chair Cloud, that would have paid public school districts for fiscal year 23 and 24 funding on enrollment versus what is in statute currently being funded by average daily attendance, which over the last 2 fiscal years has been superseded by the State Board of Education's temporary rule to pay school districts on enrollment. And what's quizzical is he actually signed the appropriation bill for fiscal year 23 based on a unit count quantified by projected enrollment. But he vetoed the language bill to fund districts for fiscal year 23 and 24 by enrollment. However, subsequent events since Sine died, when the legislature adjourned, is that the State Board of Education president has been quite vocal that the State Board intends for fiscal year 23 to put in place another temporary rule to pay school districts on enrollment. And they've had preliminary discussions, and their next State Board meeting is the 20th of April. And they are counseling districts to budget based on enrollment, which is also what I presented to you in March. So all of the revenue projections stand. Then things that are still pending are our federal grant allocations outside of the COVID relief dollars. The federal grant cycle commences on October 1st, terminates on September 30th. So that is not concurrent with our fiscal cycle of July 1st to June 30th. We generally get estimated appropriations at the end of April and revised estimated appropriations at the end of August, and then final appropriations in the fall. We do expect that those federal appropriations will be at least flat, and that's how we've budgeted so far, but we realistically anticipate an increase specifically in Title I. We have started our negotiations with our teachers union. We've had the first meeting. The second meeting will be next Wednesday, and that ties into the third and final pending variable, which is our health insurance. We participate in what's called the statewide pool, and the premium release is scheduled for this Friday. We have put a placeholder of an 8% increase. And then negotiations next Wednesday, they would anticipate talking not only about salary, but also affiliated benefits, including health insurance, which is about 11% of our overall budget. So it's a significant number. And then I wanted to share for the board, and particularly those board members that are new to our budget process. It did not start in March, where I gave you revenue projections. It started last fall, where I'm trying to project on the federal and state level what our allocations are going to be. And then in mid-December, we asked all department heads to submit by mid-January their budget request to administration. And then we start about a month-long process where those are presented formally to administration, and then coupled with the onset of the legislative session and knowing what our appropriation is going to be from the state, we marry those with our revenue projections, and then we work, we in the sentence, most particularly myself, superintendent, and the president of our teachers union, on changes to the current budget. Nothing that would be presented here in public tonight would be new information to our principals. They have had one-on-one sit-down meetings with our superintendent and the president of our teachers union on either staffing or program changes that would affect specifically their school. I think we're going to ask to hold the questions until the end, because there's a fair amount of content that maybe as we click along will answer your questions.
Yep.
And at the end of this evening, this presentation will be posted on our website for those that cannot participate and want to follow online with the audio. So we'll start with the transportation program. We are going to be asking for a 40% increase to our fuel expense. Diesel prices have literally doubled. And other things that are maintenance, the other big line items, the tire budget would be flat from this current year. We have put in place this year and in preceding years some retention stipends for those drivers that we retain and stay, is it 2 months?
Correct.
Yeah, 2 months. We do fully trained drivers, and of course, there are other driving positions potentially with a more competitive wage, and we have been able to, through this program, retain some longevity with new drivers. We've also offered a new, what we call relief driver stipend for a driver that's asked, drivers are assigned a specific route, and if they're asked to rotate through other routes, that means they have to learn all the other routes, and there's a modest stipend to be in that position. Then we have funded now through the various COVID relief packages a handful of bus purchases, and we are projecting that we would be able to buy through the third package, ARPA, 2 special education buses. And the reason we would be able to do that, and I will address this next, is a significant infusion of federal ARPA dollars that have flowed to the FCC through our technology program. But as a sort of conservative budgeting process, not knowing what our enrollment is going to be next fall, I think we are going to wait to give our transportation director the go-ahead to purchase these buses and see if these resources would have to be deployed more in the classroom. And then, not to discuss a very complicated funding formula that is carved out separately from the rest of the funding formula that's specific to how public school districts are funded for transportation in Idaho. There's something called a funding cap. We came very close to that cap for the first time this year, and to be conservative, we are adding a projected cost or a loss of revenue of maybe $200,000, anticipating we may hit that cap next year. Then in technology overall, we'll be seeing the same kind of program delivery. One of the very big things that's happening as we speak is a new student management system that is being rolled out. But the biggest thing that is a change are 2 different grants that our technology director applied through the program called USAC, which is an arm of the FCC. USAC is set up through the E-rate grant program to enhance communication for public libraries and public school districts nationally. And he applied for 2 different grants. The first was for $253,000 to purchase 1,000 elementary Chromebooks. And we had a similar dollar amount this year for ARPA, so that's sort of no change from current. And the second grant, which took longer to approve, is for $177,000 for 700 Chromebooks at the secondary level. And this is why you will see this is a positive number. This is actually a cash inflow compared to this year. Then our facility department, the major changes would be about a 14% increase to our utility budget, about $100,000. We would continue, as a reminder, we have now for several years transferred money out of our general fund into our plant fund, $200,000, because we do not have a bond or a levy in place and have not since 2007. Things that would be changed would be eliminating 2 part-time summer groundskeepers and creating a full-time groundskeeping position, and adding a 5th maintenance specialist, given the aging conditions of by and large every facility in the district in the absence of any, as I mentioned, bond or plant dollars available. And then this year, we eliminated 2 of our roving custodians that we added during the first year of the pandemic, and now we are recommending to eliminate 2 more, which would bring the one additional custodian compared to pre-COVID times. So that we would be capturing $94,000. And you've heard a nice overview from our child nutrition director just now. Appreciate that. As she shared with you, the USDA, as of now, as of July 1st, there will be no free breakfast and meals irrespective of income. And we are then operating here, or projecting that we will be operating on our free and reduced applications, and the program for breakfast and lunch would be continued under the free and reduced parameters. But unlike the additional revenue that came in through these, would you say it was $1 more per year? Yeah. We traditionally transfer about $200,000 to balance so that we can break even in our child nutrition program. Because of the inflationary costs specific to food items, we're anticipating probably a shortfall of $300,000, which would be an additional cost of $100,000 compared to this year's budget. Would also say that our child nutrition director generally comes before you as a board in May to establish the prices for breakfast and lunch for the subsequent fiscal year. We can expect that that would happen, and that given the food inflationary prices are going to be a major factor in probably our recommendation to the board on those prices.
Yeah, no, I'll take over from here on page 6. So special education, currently Hope and Clark Fork share 1 FTE for their special education students. We have an increased caseload over multiple years, and it was recommended, and we support that we would be taking the 1 FTE, moving it full-time to Clark Fork High School, and opening up a new position for Hope Elementary for 1 FTE special education. And that dollar amount there is salaries plus benefits. So I want you to understand that. With that, there has been a parapro in special education. This is all special education at Hope, but with the addition of adding a full-time teacher, we would take away the 3.95 hours per day parapro to capture some of that savings on that expense, excuse me. Also increased caseload. We would recommend that we add 1 FTE special education teacher at Sandpoint Middle School. And all of the others, the 0.5 FTE teacher at Farm and Stidwell or Kootenai, the parapros each going down there, are current positions that we've added that with the increased caseload, we're asking that we believe we need to retain those positions. We're looking closely at how we can, how we've used the federal funds to, work with learning loss. And at some point in time, we want to try to decrease and move away from that. But with the increased number of students that are qualifying in special education, we felt that it's prudent for us to retain those. Also want to point out that, not just for special education, though, we will budget like $130,000 right now, as Lisa mentioned, maybe even some of the bus acquisition money too, so that come August, when we actually know the number of students that are here, we have some money that we could hire additional staff if we need to. It's really hard right now to try to hire a position when we're not quite sure where it's going to be needed and how many. It's also very difficult to hire in August, so it's kind of where's that balance. Moving to the next, teaching and learning. I believe you've seen we're working through our curriculum adoptions, and we will be putting committees together to work on that. One that will be coming up next year will be math. And it is a large one of $500,000. We've been planning for this for multiple years. Curriculum support, we're asking to add 1 hour a day to a current person. That would be a increased cost of $5,400. Consumables, we were at a K-5 consumables, we were at a, I believe, 6-year cycle, and we've gone past that. So now we have to pay $40 for this math materials until we get that math adoption done. And so that comes in at $67,630. We'll capture money. We don't believe we're going to need as many iStation for math interventions, so that's going to be a savings there. And something that's kind of unknown, the state did adjust the Idaho content standards, and from our understanding, it's about 20% of the standards. There was no money attached to that. We kind of disagree that there's extra work on teachers, that we need to make sure that we are making sure that we are aligning to the new standards. Though it may only be 20% of them changed, we want to make sure that we have built in the time to make sure that our pacing guides are matched with the new standards and not the old. So that's some work that has to be had there. So student activities. There was a recommendation because of increased participation at Sandpoint Middle School of 2 additional coaching stipends. We partner for our athletic trainer with Bonner General Health. We needed to recommend that we increase that amount by $6,000. And a position that helping supervision of games after hours at Sandpoint High School, $5,000. That's the total of the $19,000 there. Our coaching stipends actual versus what was budgeted was $13,043 there. Our fuel costs for buses went up, and facility development will stay flat. Instrument replacement stays flat. There's no dollar amount there. Facility rental at the city, Memorial Field specifically, at increasing their $10,000. So, and then programs and cuts. Lisa, am I going to continue on this one? Okay. So basically last year we had a lot of new administrators. When we had new administrators coming in, we gave them an additional 10 days to their contract just to get acclimated. That won't be needed, so that is a savings of $38,000. I do want to spend a little bit of time on this second bullet. Historically at Sandpoint High School, and last year in the fall we were close to 1,100 students. Historically at Sandpoint High School we've had anywhere from 3 to 5 administrators. Currently we're at 3 administrators, and then we have 2 teachers called educational assistants who teach part-time and help out with some student management and do some administrative work part-time, and they split that role. Both of those are wanting to go back into the classroom and teach full-time, which then through a retirement of a teacher would leave 6 sections of teaching leaving. 3 times 2 is 6 sections going back into teaching, but we then would recommend that we would replace those 2 educational assistants with another assistant principal at Sandpoint High School. And that's what this recommendation is. So add 1 FTE administrator at Sandpoint High School. That would then be a total of 4. And at one time, at the peak of enrollment, when we were probably 2005, we were probably 1,250 students. I believe we had 5 administrators there. So that's
makes sense.
that.
So we're at
recommendation
11?
there.
Yeah, 11.
Close. State funding eliminated teacher leadership premiums, and we looked at those closely, and from what we were paying in those leadership premiums, we want to save $52,000 and reduce those. We will retain some of those, but we were able to cut what that expense was by $52,000. We did increase some teachers and paraprofessionals to address the learning loss. We know that that's not sustainable. If enrollment increases, we're going to miss our mark here, and we're going to wish we didn't cut 1.5 teachers. If enrollment stays where we think it will be, we're asking that we would reduce 1.5 FTE in teachers next year at a savings of $122,500 and save $92,000 worth of paraprofessional support. This is not an easy decision, because anytime you're starting to reduce right where the students are in the classroom, but we know that we feel that from last month's presentation, it's prudent that we start moving away from these federal dollars that we know aren't going to continue to be there. So this is our way of starting to do that.
Was that 1.5%?
Oh, we're not going to do questions yet, but I do know that there's
1.5 people.
FTE. We have these parapros being retained. Where is this one?
Those would be cuts, the parapros.
Across various
Just
schools.
various schools,
Yeah.
right. We just
Not
looked at-
designated at one
Not
school.
designated at certain schools. We just looked at different positions and tried to make it very equitable across the board,
Yeah.
based on student population too.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then I think, Lisa, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, we're going to switch gears a little bit. Instead of focusing on the program or department, we are going to start discussing compensation. And in any public school district nationally, the budget or service industry, the budget is between salaries and benefits comprised about 85%. And so, of course, it's the biggest portion of our budget. Last board meeting, I quoted out of our management discussion and analysis audit report, and I think I'll start by doing the same. So this report would have been for the fiscal year that ended June 30th of 2021, and there's a section that projects things into the future. So I just wrote, chronic labor shortages coupled with astronomical increases to housing prices locally are acutely affecting LPOSD's hiring and applicant pool. And then I would also like to share very well-known demographics in Idaho. We've been the fastest growing state in the nation now for several consecutive years, and the growth is primarily driven by the 65 and older sector, and coupled with an exodus of the 19-year-olds to 30-year-old sector. We have nationally and here in Idaho a lack of housing inventory, most specifically single-family housing inventory, and Idaho now is ranked the 10th highest real estate market in the country, and that has very much been fueled by that high in-migration of the 65 and older population. The pandemic has catapulted the labor shortage, and this projection at the close of last fiscal year drove our district to enter into a compensation study on what are called our classified staff. So classified staff means you do not hold a teaching degree. And the classified staff are more than 50% of the school district's employees. Mm-hmm. So we hired a national professional compensation company, and they focused on 70 positions of primarily the the non-director classified staff. And the focus was, and I'll just read from this, the focus on the compensation plan of 70 positions which addressed external competitiveness or the average pay of other employers to offer similar work. We had 10 comparable entities, and then we also had separately and distinctly, which we won't talk about tonight, comparing to the private sector market. So the 10 entities were public sector, but they weren't all public education, municipality, for example. And they, in order to have a match, they needed 80% of the job duties to be comparable to our job description. So if they couldn't find a match, then it's not part of the statistic that's being shared with you. And then the primary result is here, and I'm just reading it verbatim. Current pay bands used by Lake Pend Oreille School District for benchmark positions are overall, on the average, approximately 27.61% below market for starting wages and approximately 10.83% below market for maximum wages. To be considered market competitive, it is recommended to be plus or minus 5%. So when they're talking about the maximum and the minimum, our classified non-director salary matrix, which I will share with you next, has rows and columns, and they're talking about the entry-level wage for a respective column to the top wage. Historically, Idaho has had a lower than national average cost of labor, and it is presently experiencing a higher cost of living and cost of labor. And for definition purposes, for the board and for the audience, the cost of living is defined by measures required to maintain a certain standard of living within a geographic location based on goods and services, including consumables, transportation, health services, housing, and taxes paid by an employee. This is separate and distinct from the cost of labor, is determined by the supply and demand of labor across all industries and occupations in a geographical area. It represents the cost to hire and retain employees. And it's singly this factor in particular that launched this compensation study, the cost of labor, what an employee is willing to take the job for, the compensation has, not only in Idaho, but specifically here in our school district boundaries, risen considerably. And we knew at the end of last fiscal year that our transportation department, our facility department, and our child nutrition department in particular, which between them is about 150 full-time employees, really was struggling to be able not only to retain, but also to hire in, given the local competitive businesses. So the results aren't necessarily startling, but obviously we can't continue to operate. This year has been very trying, and 3 of the directors that I've mentioned are sitting here and could give you personal testimonials as to how close the program on any given day was not able to support our school district's teaching and learning commission. So we've modified our classified non-director salary matrix, and I'd like to review those highlights. The overall takeaway is that 95% of this staff group would receive a 14% pay increase next fiscal year, and that it would allow the school district to hire in at sort of the lowest column an employee at $15 an hour. So now I'm going to ask our treasurer clerk to help me, because like Geraldine Meyer, I am technology challenged. Yay! Surprise.
So this is
column A would
This
go
is
from
the
there.
current.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what we're proposing.
And it's adapted in the columns
We
where they,
pushed, got rid of A and moved it down.
yeah, I see how that's working. B's kind of the combo.
Right. There's not many people in that position.
And it gives A quite a bump
17 people that's
in,
here at the bottom.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's helpful.
Okay. Okay, so
Now the biggest.
this is very small, and it's on the screen so that you can understand the structure of the current classified non-director salary matrix.
Yeah.
There are presently about 340 bodies that are paid off of this salary matrix, and we're starting with the first page where it's highlighted in yellow at the top. It says effective July 1, 2021.
Yeah.
So the history on this salary matrix is in 2004, so not quite 20 years ago, 18 years ago, we hired a different compensation consultant to develop a salary matrix. And this, the format has remained unchanged. And by that, I mean that from A to I, the level of responsibilities escalate as you go up the alphabet. So responsibilities, duties, and either certification or levels of education would, for example, be highest in column I, the one on the far right. Other things that also are the same are every job on this matrix has been ranked by the rubric that was developed in 2004 by this compensation consultant. Other things that also are the same are there to move down a row represents an increase in salary. And originally that row movement was 1.875, and now 5 years ago, we as a school district tried to coalesce all of the district salary matrix to represent that rung movement would be 3%. And so
Right.
now this matrix has a 3% movement. Other things that are salient is A through G. So here, this is a 10% increase, this is a 10% increase, 10%, 10%, and then G to H was a 17%, and H to I was a 35%. Other things that are notable right now are there are 20 rungs in A through G, and there are 15 rungs in H and I. Now, if I can do this.
You can do it.
Lisa, are you trying to go to the next one?
No, I'm just trying to point out that
Yeah, from G.
the entry-level wage here, so in A1 is $9.44.
Right.
And it was very clear in the compensation study that our competitors here for like work are hiring in at $15 an hour or higher.
Yeah.
So the recommendation that's coming before the board well, yeah, there are several changes, not in the structure, but in the entry-level wages and the column and bandwidth. So I'll start with that we've eliminated column A, and we've
Yep.
moved all of the active jobs that are in column A to column B. The next change is that you will see there are 17 rungs from A to G, and that is meant to duplicate what will be the teacher fiscal year 2023 proposal to come before the negotiation team next Wednesday, where there would also be 17 rounds. Other fundamental changes are in column B, where it's highlighted in yellow, row 9. This is where we can hire in a brand new employee if they have experience. That in the most entry-level positions in our district, that we would be able to hire in a new employee at $15 an hour.
Okay.
Other things that have changed is that the movement from A to G is still 10% increase, but we have truncated from G to H. It went from 17 to 10%, and I'm sorry, 17 to 13%, and then from H to I, it went from 35% to 10%. We have to be very cognizant in this row that the wages do not eclipse our classified director positions, which is a separate and distinct salary matrix. So this is what we are recommending to the board.
Lisa, can I ask a quick
Yeah.
question? I'm sorry. So, the numbers between grades on page 2 here, 10% from B through
to
G,
G, and then,
13%?
G to H is 13.
right, and then H to I is 10%.
Oh, it's 10.
Yeah. And the other thing that has changed in the current fiscal year, the band width of the jobs are 75%, and industry standard is much more in the 45% range. So what we have done is it's 50%, and we've eliminated these 3 rows and basically pushed the money to the beginning levels of this salary matrix. You will also see in the recommendation that comes to the negotiating team next Wednesday that mirrors what we are trying to do with the teacher matrix, where we're really trying to infuse the dollars we are receiving in our state appropriation to our more entry-level and less tenured staff district-wide. So then I would ask Kelly if we could go back to the PowerPoint. Thank you. Thank you. So then, Jen, again, to recap, that would represent, of these 340 staff people, 95% of those will receive a 14% pay increase, and that is the increase to the base in order to bring us to a $15 an hour higher potential for column E. And finally, we have a $46 million budget this year, and I mentioned that 85% of that is tied to compensation. And so while the numbers on the screen that I'm going to discuss are large, just keep it in that framework. So for fiscal year 23 at the state level, we now have a 7% increase to the base salaries at the state level for classified staff and certified administrators, and those are funded through state revenues exclusively. There is a committee, a joint committee called the CEC, the Change in Employee Compensation, that meets at the beginning of every legislative session, and they make a recommendation of how much to increase state employees' compensation. And they've also recommended that for K-12, and that was what was adopted. So state employees in Idaho are receiving a 7% increase next fiscal year. And then the budget that's been adopted for K-12 for next year includes a 10% increase to teachers. I would caution The teacher base salary, it's on a reimbursement basis, but I would caution you that it's a blend of the state revenues, along with the governor has ARPA control over his own ARPA funds, and it's a blend of the state and federal dollars that total this 10%. So costs that we anticipate, and we will know for sure this Friday, we're projecting an 8% increase to our health insurance premium, $336,000. We know of teacher retirements that are at the top end of the salary matrix, and the hiring in at lower rungs, and a very conservative dollar amount that we would be capturing through that is $193,000. We currently have, through all programs, 254 FTE teachers, and we are recommending an 8.16 average salary increase. Again, where the lowest rung teachers, the first 9 rungs would be receiving an average of about a 9.86% increase. So that's a little more than $1 million in additional costs. I've just discussed our compensation study through Ameriband that affects 340 classified non-directors, with a significant increase to 95% of the staff at 14% increase. That's $1,089,000 in increased cost. And then we're recommending for the 24 classified directors and certified administrators an average of a 7.3% increase. Just of these numbers, generally 20% of them and the salary are the affiliated taxes and mandatory retirement contributions. So this isn't all salary, it's the salary and the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So the costs on this slide are $2.4 million, and the costs on the department, antecedent department slides are $965,000. So the additional costs are about $3.4 million, and that we are anticipating through the state an additional $3.5 million. So I reviewed and projected last meeting that we would end fiscal year 23 under these parameters with a fund balance reserves of 32%, and that would hold. Next steps for the school district are finalizing negotiations, finalizing our health insurance premium for next fiscal year. If there are questions and modifications from the board, administration would come back to you in the May meeting. And then we would, by statute, we have to adopt the budget in our June meeting. I have to give the county clerk that specific date by April 30th. So I believe that Tuesday is June 14th. And I think that concludes our presentation. Are there questions?
I have one question for you, Lisa. So you've talked about these salary increases, which I am fully in support of bringing our classified and teacher salaries into more alignment with what's happening, and what's happening both in our county and statewide. Are these raises sustainable after ARPA and state support flattens out? You've talked about
we take it,
our long range projection.
Right, so the long range projection, which went through 2027, included all of these raises and year over year, another 7% inflationary factor. So the projection I gave you was very, very conservative.
Okay.
But we are strategically making a decision that because we've been able to supplant general fund expenses to the tune of $2.4 million in our COVID relief money for multiple fiscal years, and that we're going to have a one-time bump in enrollment funding, that we're going to use that at this very moment in time to address the labor challenges in our district.
That's excellent. Thank you.
And if I could just add a little clarification here on that, to summarize this, though it looks like the state is saying For classified and administrators, you should have should be giving a 7% raise and 10% increase for teachers. We know that that doesn't always fit our district. So really, to summarize this, we're really looking at minimum, there would be no employee that would get less than, but they would get a 5% raise. But the average increase, if you could also move, would be about 8%. So 5 and 8, and I know we'll get questions about, well, but the state said 7 and 10, but it doesn't equate in the sense that we know we employ more people than what the state funds us for.
To augment that, the state sets base salaries for classified staff and certified administrators. It's a base salary. It has nothing to do with our base salary and the majority of base salaries throughout the state.
Yeah.
We have paid out historically in salaries 30% more than we've been reimbursed in the state. They're just
That's, yeah, that's.
And if you didn't notice on the classified pay scale here, the number of employees that are in each one of these categories is at the very bottom. So, for example, you look at column I, there's only 11 employees that are in column I that have specific certifications and are, whether they be our electricians are, having those certifications there.
Yeah, the majority are in
right.
column
That's
D.
why 95%
Majority of them are in B.
columns
Right.
D.
A, B, B through G.
Yeah, yeah.
Lisa, a question, if I may. What is your projection of the financial impact if the Department of Ed doesn't come through with the special rule? So if we revert back to
Right, we would lose $1.2 million
1.2,
in
okay.
a bump in revenue.
all right.
But if
They
it
don't
doesn't come through
with
in
the
fiscal year
enrollment.
23, there is now yet a second funding formula committee established to look at the funding formula, probably very much concentrated on the enrollment piece. And within the next several fiscal cycles, it would be my anticipation that Idaho would finally move to funding on enrollment.
And that temporary rule was the move to pay on enrollment rather than ADA.
ADA.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Lisa? Curly looks like he's, yep.
There were a few of these items throughout your presentation where ARPA money is being spent on different things, transportation with the buses and Chromebooks, I guess, with the technology. Are those the best places to spend that? Has that been highly evaluated? I don't know who I should ask, but I mean, can that money be spent in other places? Or has that decision already been made?
So in the technology realm, that is again through the FCC, and the FCC's federal ARPA money, and they decided to, on an application basis, offer the grant money, and that's been done. We are approved. It's only for the Chromebooks. In fact,
That's earmarked.
right. The 1,000 Chromebooks at the elementary level arrive in our district this Friday, and the secondary Chromebooks have already been ordered. So there's no movement there. The other funding that is tied to ARPA would be potentially buying 2 special education buses, which we intended to buy originally on our depreciation schedule for fiscal year 24. And we thought we might accelerate that because of this infusion of the technology money. But as it's presented tonight, we're going to wait to see if enrollment comes in where we projected, or if we're going to need more, essentially, contingency dollars to deploy to staffing. So that hasn't been settled. We did apply. If you were going to make any kind of capital expense through COVID relief dollars, you have to be approved for that capital expense. It's been approved by the State Department of Education, but that's as far as it's gone.
So we could use that money for wages or
Yes.
employment of some kind?
Yes. But the important things, and this is tangential, but because you brought it up, the way you buy buses in Idaho under the funding formula, you're on a depreciation schedule for 10 years, and when they fall off, then you lose your reimbursement. And we are finally, which is a big applause for those of us that get it, on the depreciation schedule this year. And we want to work most earnestly to stay on that depreciation schedule. So if
Yes.
we don't buy the special ed buses this fiscal year, we will have to buy them in fiscal year '24 to keep on the depreciation schedule.
Yeah. Thank you for that
And I
clarity.
guess just to dovetail into why just repeat why we may be holding off, because that $220,000 could buy some additional teachers if our class sizes start to increase. You know, when we start getting class sizes in the upper 20s and into 30s, then, you know, we really need to take a look at that and what's most important. We're in the business of educating students, and we want to make sure they have the best environment to learn. And so that is why we're holding off,
Excellent.
just seeing as if we have an increased enrollment that,
We'd be
you
ready.
know, we know we're going to have some, but we don't know. Sometimes summers just are really surprising. So,
Well,
So if there are no other questions, just for administration to be clear, we would now be coming back to you in June with the budget adoption versus another
Incorporating
kind of
all these pieces.
presentation in May.
yep.
and if Lisa,
Yeah.
if there were other questions that come up with them, they, board members could just contact
Extension
you.
1018.
Yeah, so.
Or email. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lisa.
And thank you, Kelly, for all the help.
We are going to invite our facilities director, Matt Deal, up to talk to us about 2 different improvement upgrade plans. Hello, Matt.
Thanks for having me back.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, the first items, we had kind of mixed results on the bids. The first items were the therapy room upgrades at Sandpoint Middle and Northside Elementary Schools. So those, we had the bids and specifications packaged in different
This
bid
is not it,
packages.
though.
Those were packaged with some of the HVAC work. And in fact, we didn't get any bids.
Hey,
What happened was between the
they're not
time
on there.
the engineer contacted the vendors to find out lead times on equipment, because we're sensitive to that, and the time we got the bids out, the time the vendors, or the time the contractors contacted the vendors for quotes, the lead times were too long to get the project done in the time frame specified in the contract. If the project wasn't done by the end of August, then there was $500 a day liquid damages. Well, when the equipment's 30 to 40 weeks out, contractors are like, forget it, I can't even get the equipment.
Yeah.
So it just has to do with the climate we're in and the supply chain. The specific pieces of equipment, and it was one specific type, is the classroom unit ventilators, you know, that were in schools when we were in school. Well, those are being replaced by the thousands across the country, so lead times just stretch way out. So, what we're recommending is removing the small remodels for special ed from all bid packages. We're going to get quotations locally from 3 vendors because the cost of the project and the funding is such that we can do that and not go out to official public bid on those. Bid those locally or regionally and still try to get those done this summer. That equipment's available. Okay, so we're not going to go to official bid. We'll solicit quotations to contractors. The bigger HVAC package, we recommend rebidding with a much longer construction time to be completed by August 23, which does meet the spending deadlines for that pot of money. Some of the work may get done this summer, we're letting the contractors having a longer time. We obviously won't let them tear out a heating system before next school year and leave us without heat. So that's what we recommend.
Okay.
So that's item 5.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the,
Well,
is there any questions about those?
Oh,
No.
on what you're looking.
yeah. It's not item
Right.
5 on our agenda, but that
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I know where you are.
It was
Oh,
seven.
that's item 7.
It was item 7,
Seven.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
So-
questions on that?
No, I don't have any questions. Do we have any questions on that, or we'll move into the action items? Or-
So are you gonna represent all this for us, or do we have to vote on anything?
So,
No, you've already given approval to bid.
But you're changing the timelines and all that?
We're
Do we have to
changing-
vote on any of that?
No.
we don't need to re-vote on that. That's, you'll change it in the
I
best
just wanna
interest of
make
the
sure that,
projects
you know,
that we
you know, That's the
understand.
recommendation, and, you know, if you nod your head and say, sounds good, then we'll move forward.
I like the
Yeah, the two
idea
are-
of getting that done, what we can get done
Yes.
locally this year
Breaking it out
by
into.
local contractors for this.
Right, and that's for the smaller,
Special ed.
the special ed rooms that we really want to get those done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These ventilation, I mean, I really recommend rebidding. These are the specific projects in our district, the specific student occupied areas that have very, very poor ventilation, or none.
So Matt, when we do go out to rebid for those, you will bring those back to the board?
Absolutely, you
Yes.
have to approve,
Yeah.
just like
Like
I'm
we're going
asking you
to.
to approve in
Yeah.
8.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not that it doesn't come back to us, but him moving forward is not an action item tonight.
So just a clarification, if it's not, let's say you go out to bid, and let's say it's not completed at the time frame next summer, do we lose those funds?
No, because those funds are actually through 2024.
September 30th, 2024.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're fine then.
So we have a big buffer there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good question.
Okay,
So now we're going to move on to an action item here, and we have several approval for bid awards, and you're going to address these now. Thank you, Matt.
thank you. So the first one is the award of bid for Sandpoint Middle School gymnasium roof.
Somehow it's gonna combine them along.
Bids were open, well, I asked you for approval to go back to bid back in February. Bids were open April 6th. We received 2 bids. The lowest bid is Darden Construction for $208,949. And we recommend accepting that.
On the second one. Yeah. So at this time, I will hear a motion to approve this award for bid.
I make a motion to award the bid for the Sandpoint Middle School Gymnasium re-roof to Darden Enterprises.
And just a point of clarification on that roof, as we did the assessments and, you know, checked to see how many layers on that and tested it, actually discovered there's asbestos in the roofing material. So we're actually doing the tear off and the remediation under a different contract.
This is just the re-roof.
This is just the re-roof, but we're going all the way down to the deck and
Okay.
doing it right,
Okay.
as well as the roof drain assemblies.
So I have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
A second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions for Matt on this?
Yeah, I've got a question on the remediation of the asbestos. Where is that funding coming from?
That's coming from our annual maintenance plant fund. Same place the roofing is coming from.
Are there other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, so that motion passes. Thank you, and we'll go on to the Sandpoint High School.
Yeah, the Sandpoint High School and the child nutrition. Those 2 projects, we actually coupled them. We put it together as a package to make it more appealing for contractors. So we received
Together.
2 bids on that. We opened it the same day, April 6th. The locker room project came in at $98,426. Upon reviewing the bids, we found out that they bid it with stainless steel bathroom partitions, and that's not what it's spec'd for. It's spec'd for, a plastic material that's far less expensive. So we'll get the work done for less money than that. We'll adjust that later. So that'll be good. And then the child nutrition facility is $424,250. It's the same contractor, Dardan Enterprises. They have all the public works licenses. They've done school remodels, highly qualified. The contract requires a general to be on site when any subs are on site, kind of look after it, but it's between the high school and the child nutrition, on Baldy.
Yeah.
So it's close to where they're one general, we're allowing them, you don't have to be at each site, but you can go back and forth between.
Sure. So I'll entertain a motion for that.
I make a motion to award the bid for Sandpoint High School locker room remodel and child nutrition facility upgrades to Darden Enterprises.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None
Thank
opposed,
you.
so that motion passes. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
I will, at this time, hear a motion for consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second
It's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
that.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, so that motion passes. Wow, we rushed through those last few items and we're already at announcements.
Well,
Superintendent.
Why don't we start with the administrators in the
We have quite a few
room
administrators
first.
here.
Yeah.
So, Phil, you're
I'm,
front and center for me. What do you
all
have?
I gotta say is, you guys, it's about time this military career is over, because I just want to welcome back Kyle Olmstead, my math teacher. They've had more than I have, so I just want to welcome him back.
So
Great. Thank you.
if you don't know, Kyle's in the National Guard. He's been deployed and he's back to teach. So anyway,
Welcome.
Kyle,
Welcome home.
thank you for your service.
Well, that's hard to talk. What, TJ? What do you have?
Just gonna say high levels of learning, getting ready for ISAT. Things are going great at Southside. We're having a lot of fun, and yeah, everybody's really happy and just enjoying the weather. The snow's gone, so we have the playground back, and we're excited to see the results of the testing program. So.
Great. Thank you. And David, Miles.
All right, yeah. Let's see here. We are registering students right now for next year, so that's what we're in the process of doing. Springboard 2 high school for 8th graders is coming up here on the end here of April, so we'll register all of them as well. And they will also come over to the high school for a night and have some presentations to learn about what the high school has to offer. Just to let you know, spring sports are all going right now. That's golf, tennis, track, baseball, and softball, despite the weather looking still like winter. And we're in the final term right now. And I think Geraldine has an additional thing, unless I was good enough to beat her to it.
No, that was perfect, and Mr. Miles doesn't know about it because we just got permission this afternoon. I know, I didn't have to tell you. We have a student at Sandpoint High School's Tiffany Brown, who was selected as a Hagen Scholar. And what that means is the Hagen Foundation supports rural schools, and Sandpoint still counts as rural, and they provide up to $6,000 per semester for up to 8 consecutive semesters. Plus, they provide a Schwab brokerage account and let the students invest this money, and whatever they invest at the end of their college experience, they get to keep. But it's this really cool program, and it was started in the Midwest by the Hagen family. And she is one of our students, and we just got the news release that she made it, and so you didn't even know. So it's Tiffany Brown. There hopefully will be some information on the paper cup.
Good.
And
Thank
so
you.
in that, there you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Chris, is there anything else you need to add?
You already heard from me, right?
We already heard. Is there anything from the district office? And Lisa?
Lisa does.
Paul?
So I just wanted to share that we've had in my department a retirement of our district bookkeeper who
Yes.
gave service for 24 years, and Valerie has started on her own in March, and we also are having an upcoming retirement of our payroll specialist, Debbie Riker, of 30 years, and we have hired in Morgan McCaden and with multi-month training. So those two positions with a lot of institutional knowledge and a lot of support for the district, and it's a big deal for the business functions of the district.
Yes, it is. But will you convey to both of your retiring employees our gratitude for their many years of service? Thank you. I think, Superintendent, you're done?
They covered it. Yep.
Okay, with that, the meeting is adjourned.
We have executive session, point of order.
Oh, I keep doing that. I'm sorry, everyone. Motion to move into executive session. Sorry. Got
I
excited.
move that we enter executive session as provided for in Idaho Code Title 74, Section 206, subsection 1B, to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, or public school student, to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated. The mere presence of legal counsel at an executive session does not satisfy this requirement.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded.
You get to first it next time.
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote, trustee Peters.
Yeah.
Trustee Sherman.
Yes.
Trustee Decker.
Right.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passed.
Motion passes. We'll now move into executive session. Thank you. And we have to hold executive session right here. So thank you guys. If you can all move downstairs, that would be great.